The history of communication, from then to now, according to me. Orality starts off our communication. Early times is verbal, people speaking to each other or in some form language. Some of the great orators started here in Greece. Among them were the philosophers Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. But the greatest orator, creation of the universe, verbalized, "Let there be light." And there was light. What is an oral society? According to the dictionary, an oral society is a society that has not developed literacy. Now, what is literacy? Again, according to the dictionary, it's the ability to read and write and the possession of education. Now, here's where I got a problem with that, with the education part. Because just because you can't read and write does not mean you're not educated. So, educated, again, according to the dictionary, giving evidence of training or practice, skilled. So just because you couldn't read or write didn't mean that you couldn't hunt or make things, use tools. You have gifts and skills and aptitude and talent, but the orators needed to improve their communication. So I started with symbols. These symbols date back to 30,000 BC, and there's many types of symbols, such as cave paintings. These date back to the Upper Paleolithic age. The earliest cave paintings are found in Europe, but they're found all over the world, from the Sahara Desert to the United States, painted by indigenous people. Next we have the petroglyphs, which are similar, but these are carved. These are carved in rock using a stone chisel. The oldest petroglyphs are dated to approximately the Neolithic age. Pictograms and ideograms. These are symbols that communicate words or actions through graphics, such as the Egyptian hieroglyphs or the Chinese symbols. We use ideograms today to communicate certain things, whether it's where the men's room is, the ladies' room, or hazardous materials. Also, stop sign is an ideogram, and even if that's painted black, you know from the shape that you need to stop at the intersection. Then we move on to writing. Writing helped with communication and recording things, so you could get it right. First writing system dates to the Bronze Age, in late 4000 BC. Sumerians developed cuneiform writing, which again is a form of writing using symbols and graphics. Phoenicians developed an alphabet in the 16th century. And then the Greek alphabet came along about the 8th century BC. The Greek alphabet uses 22 letters and is a precursor of today's alphabet. As you can see, many of these letters look very familiar to our alphabet. And we have printing. Printing really was a game changer. Back in 1305, Chinese developed woodblock printing. This was carved wood blocks, dipped in ink, and then pressed onto paper. Gutenberg invented the printing press back in 1440, and this really got things going. The first mass-produced book is the Bible, and is still the most sold book year after year. 1844, Gentry produces paper from wood pulp. It was previously made from rags. And in 1958, Chester Carlson presents the first photocopier.
Ever since people started recording information, there's been a need to duplicate it.
Very nice work, Brother Dominic.
Thank you.
Very nice. Now, I would like 500 more sets.
Could you do a big job for me?
The Xerox 9200 duplicating system, unlike anything we've ever made.
Here are your sets, Father. The 500 sets you asked for.
It's a miracle.
Then we get into long distance communication, excuse me. So we had smoke signals. They're used by the Chinese on the Great Wall to communicate between the towers. Also, indigenous people use them to communicate with other tribes. 26 AD, Roman Emperor Tiberius used metal mirrors to reflect the sun from the island of Capri back to the mainland, the boot of Italy, while he ruled. And Magellan used cannon fire and flags to communicate with other ships in his voyage. Ships still use flags today to communicate with each other. If you look at the Tommy Hilfiger logo, that is the semaphore flag for the letter H. And we have the telegraph. First was the optical telegraph, which Claude Chappé establishes the first long distance semaphore telegraph. You can see here it's another at the tower and at different shapes for different letters, used very effectively by Napoleon during his reign in Europe. And we have the electric telegraph. Samuel Morse develops the Morse code to be used on the telegraph. It's just a series of dots and dashes to convey letters of the alphabet. CBU would be dash dot dash dot dash dot 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 dash. Telephone. Now you could speak to people directly, really start the communication flowing. This was not really invented by Alexander Graham Bell, but he was definitely awarded the first patent in 1876 with some controversy. These two gentlemen could have easily got the patent for the telephone, and there's still a lot of controversy surrounding this today and how Bell was able to secure that first patent. But that's for another PowerPoint slideshow to discuss. Radio. Radio could cover very long distances. Hertz identifies and studies radio waves in 1886. 1895, Marconi develops the first practical transmitter receiver. By 1920, people were listening to the radio, hanging out around the radio. The first broadcast on KDKA in Pittsburgh. Television changed everyone's lives and the way we receive communication. 1928 was the first television broadcast. 1941 was the first TV commercial, which means we were commercial free with our TVs for 13 years. Now we pay a lot of money to be commercial free. 1955, 50% of the homes in the United States had a television. Today, 1.7 billion homes around the world have at least one television. But we all do the same thing. We still sit around and get our information from the world that's trying to communicate to us, whether it's selling us something, or it's news, or it's history. Something is always being broadcast on television. The computers really kicked up communication. These machines were first developed to solve mathematical problems using a punch card. In the 70s, we saw the first personal computers hit the market, such as the Radio Shack's TRS-80. Most people use their own television sets for their monitors. 1975, Microsoft was formed by Bill Gates and Paul Allen. And then in 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started Apple Computers. The internet really broke things loose. The idea of the internet started back in the 60s. The first email was sent in 1965. Dave Faber reveals his idea to build a network using phone lines so everybody could get emails, multiple nations. 1990, Berners-Lee develops hypertext markup language, HTML, which is every website you've ever been on, and uniform resource locator, the URL. That's all your WWs. And then in the 2000s is the rise of the .com, also the bust of the .com, but it's the rise of the .com, and communication explodes. And we have our mobile phones, which is like a third hand for everybody. People will leave the house without a baby, but if they forget the phone, they'll go back and get their phone. 1947, Bell Labs proposed a cell-based phone, which led to today's cellular phone. 1983, Motorola introduces the Dynatac 8000X, also known as the Brick. You can see her holding that huge phone in her hand. 1989, Motorola introduces the first truly portable cell phone, the flip phone. I actually had one of these. Motorola was a big player back then. Nokia releases the 9000 Communicator, which is the first smartphone. Had a keyboard. They had to flip up, but it made it a lot easier to send messages, to communicate whoever was on the other end. And then, of course, in 2007, the iPhone comes to the market and changes everything. So the summary of my history of communication is this. From the start of human history, communication has been paramount. Communication is a wide swath of information, from breaking news to history to knowing someone's feelings. Emoji. The faster, more accurate the information received, the better. Communication is storytelling. It can be spoken, shown, written, received, and transmitted. Communication can describe the facts or put a spin on the facts, a la cable news networks. Today, there are more and faster ways to receive this communication than any time in history. Thank you.